All right.
Okay, we are up and streaming and live, so I think we're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and we are 1 minute late. I apologize. I saw a majestic hawk perched on a light post in the employee parking lot. It's the biggest hawk I've ever seen, so I had to stop and take a picture. So we'll get that posted on the YouTube somehow. So welcome everybody to our April 2021 board meeting. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. As usual, Sylvette will mute everybody, so please do remember to unmute yourself when we give you the cue. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we do go unmute, we did want to take a moment of silence to remember the loss of life during a helicopter accident at one of our facilities earlier this week. So I'd ask everybody for just 60 seconds of silence, please. Thank you. Sylvette, would you please, and please do everybody unmute yourself to respond to roll call. Would you please take a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Brian Gaines.
I'm here.
Mike Dowd. Frank Facciano.
Present.
Dawn Godshall. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
John Hayes.
Here.
Ron Heckman.
Here.
Larry Hemberger. I saw him on there, so.
He's here. He's on mute. I can see him.
Okay, thanks,
You
John.
can wave, Larry, that'll count.
James Irwin.
Here.
Jeff Matskin.
Here.
Glenn Reedman.
Present.
Mike Stershik. Matt Turk.
I'm here.
Chris Worley.
Here.
Tara Zirinsky.
Here.
Okay, we have a forum.
Excellent, thank you. First, I want to take a minute before we get started with anything else to recognize the service of an outgoing board member. Glenn Geisinger has joined us for the past, do you serve 2 terms? We've been here for
7 years.
7 years, thank you. And has been an excellent asset to our Board of Governors, spending years chairing our Finance Committee and being incredibly helpful in that respect, and has been an excellent representative of Northampton County and an ally to the airport for his entire service. So I want to give Glenn an opportunity to just take a minute and say any words he might like to say. He's here with us today.
Is there a place I should stand?
Colin, does that work for him probably?
Over there.
On the airplane.
I would just like.
As the chamber thing on, please turn it off or put yourself on mute.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
Yep.
You know, I just want to take this opportunity. I appreciate the chance to speak, and I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you, all the present board members, all the staff. It has been an amazing experience. when I first came onto the board, I came here with a purpose, which was to help the people of Northampton County protect maintaining an airfield with a 1,900-foot strip. And I knew very little, except that I knew that that was an asset that I didn't want to lose in my county. I'm leaving this board with an incredible appreciation of the $40 million business that this is, and the city within a city that it truly is from an operational standpoint. I have been greatly enriched, and I hope that my small contribution has assisted some of you in moving this forward. I would especially be remiss if I did not thank both Executive Lamont McClure and Executive John Brown, our former county executive, for the appointment and the opportunity to serve, and all the members of Northampton County Council who approved those appointments and allowed me to be here. And lastly, I want to say that this has been one of the greatest honors that I've ever had. It has been very enriching, and it is a blessing that I will take with me for the rest of my life. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. Again, I can't say how much we appreciated the time that we've had together, and getting to know you has been fantastic. So I wish you well. Okay. I'd ask if we do have any public comments, Sylvette.
We do not, sir.
There's none. Okay. We did have 2 board meetings in March, so we have 2 meeting minutes packages to approve. They were both in Novus, so I trust you had an opportunity to review them. I think we can do them with a single motion, approve both minutes. Please so. Just make it we'll take 3 seconds off of the,
Sure,
off
absolutely.
the agenda. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes of March 15th and the minutes of March 30th as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, John. A second. Thank you, Frank. All in favor of approving the minutes of March 15th and of March 30th, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Very good. We will now move on to the reports of our committees, starting with the treasurer's report. John, please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And at this point in time, turn it over to Todd to run through the treasurer's report.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to run through these relatively quickly. We went over these in depth in our committee meetings last week. But just wanted to kind of point out, since we're through the first quarter, where we are as far as landings. We're up 12% versus budget, still down 27% versus last year at the same time period. Landed weight only down 21%, which is key because that's how we get paid. The mix, because a lot of times people want to know the mix, is 60% of our landed weight, it's actually a little bit more now, 60% of our landed weight is associated with cargo. More like 60% of our flights are associated with passengers. But the landed weight is how we get paid. Next slide. Passenger traffic, again, we're up. You remember this is our first kind of pandemic to pandemic comparison. Last year we started the pandemic about mid-March. So you can see we're up about 5%. March to March. First quarter, you can see we're down 45% year over year. But the important mark that we're really focusing on when we talk about first quarter is 2017. As you remember, that's what our budget was based on, 2017. That is the number where we get to some sense of normalcy when we're back to 2017. So you can see we're slowly approaching that number. March actually was only down 20% versus 2017. Next slide. Net income, we are actually back into the black year to date, which is always a good thing. We had a very good month of March, a lot of that associated with the Rockefeller sale, which generated a lot of one-off income, non-operational easements, which are $639,000. So that one-time extraordinary income is shown as non-operating, but it does impact our net income, and we are positive 820 counting that. Without that, we would be negative 150,000 or so, but again, still ahead of budget. Again, you can start to see what's going on. One of the things that's really changed for the month is our timing of some of our cares, because we got that top-off funding. We're using that funding first. The other funding will be used, but it will be used at slightly different timing than we originally budgeted. Next slide. This is the same thing, kind of talking about year-to-date. Again, that easement income is key. You can see where I said there, net income positive year-to-date, 150,000. But again, that easement really makes a big difference from the Rockefeller sale. We'll take it because we need whatever we can to kind of get through this hump, but it's nice to be in the positive through 3 quarters of the year. Excuse me, 3 months of the year. Next slide. You can see our variances. The biggest one there is obviously the land easements, interplanes, actually us getting some flights, working in there with the fueling, and then our de-icing revenue, which we talked about in previous months, that make up a significant portion of our budget impact. We are $1.1 million ahead of our budgeted numbers, but you can see on the bottom there, parking is down versus what we had budgeted, and we didn't use as much of the CARES as we thought to this point. So again, these are good things, but these are revenue items, which are key because our expenses are at the point where we cannot lower them anymore without sacrificing safety and operations. Next slide. Top centers, my favorite is parking, slowly creeping up, but aviation services, our fueling is generating some positive income for us. That's our top getter. Parking slowly moving up to its normal place at number 1, and then aviation lease and non-aviation lease make out the rest of the top 4. Next slide. Again, this is our cash flow. You can see where we are. Let's go down to the next one. You can see our changes here are really just a reflection of some of the adjustments in our capital that we've made, some of the timing, and some of the differences on the CARES. In line 22 there, you can see the difference of how we're going to use the funding, the timing. The total amount is a little bit higher than what we had because of this top-off funding. We'll talk about that a little later. But the overall number doesn't change much except for the timing of it. Slide down. And you can see, go back up to that we're going to stay above our 60-day number, including contingency and our reserve for future debt service. Above that, our number, our board number of 60 days to the rest of this year. But you can see for the next 6 months, we're above 200. So with that, that's it. And at this point, I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Do we have any questions? Todd, I have a quick one on that. When do you anticipate parking to return to that number 1 position? Is it likely to occur this summer?
Yeah, I'm anticipating. I mean, what you're seeing is it's slowly getting back. If you remember our budget, we anticipated the second half was really more of our comeback.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're, but it's slowly getting better. And actually for the month of April, we saw some really good numbers around the Easter time, and that was just good stuff.
May, June is.
Plus with our new parking equipment, we're hoping that people are going to enjoy that and take advantage of that as well.
Well, enjoying parking is never that might be a
Well, less painful. How about that?
We're going to do our best.
There you go. I'll just hang out here in case I have someone.
Thank you. Yes, Larry, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I was just curious if my mic was on. Thank you.
We can hear you now. Okay, I would ask for a motion to entertain a motion to accept the March 2021 Treasurer's Report.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Tara. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. All in favor of accepting the Treasurer's Report as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We will now move to the Finance Committee. John has stepped in for chair in Glenn's place last week. So John, please walk us through the Finance Committee reports, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item on the agenda for the for the Finance Committee had to do with revisions to our 2021 operating budget. I'm going to remind everyone when we approved the budget, we did acknowledge at that point in time, given a lot of the uncertainties on both the revenue and expense side, that there would likely be revisions as we went through 2021, and this is the first of those. We've had a couple of good things happen on the revenue and on the lower expense side, and management has a proposal in terms of allocation of those dollars. So Todd, can you take us through the specifics in terms of the revision request?
Yes, and we went into a lot of detail on this at our committee meetings, but the long and short of it is, you remember our budget net income was 68,000 with some really conservative numbers as far as expenses. So with some of these additional CARES funding, the first one being the top off CARES payroll support funding, money that was not budgeted, we are going to incorporate that into our 2021 budget, but absorb that with some additional expenses. The other piece of it is we had originally put in 250,000 of bad debt. If you can't remember, I'm a pretty conservative guy, and I like to be able to sleep at night, so we put 250,000 in there. We actually carried over a big number from last year. So we're proposing, because of some of these CARES funding, that we have less risk as far as our concessionaires. So we want to reduce that number from 250 down to 50,000, which seems prudent based on what we see so far, and just kind of reallocate. So what you're really talking about is that 298,000 and the 200,000 from the bad debt and reallocating them. And we're going to allocate them 249 to employee compensation. That's benefits, salaries, all those things. And then the other half is just reallocating to some of the other things that we need along the way. We talked about some professional fees, some materials, all these things that are happening. Again, our budget was very tight. So these are much needed so that we can breathe a little bit and move forward with some of the things that are going forward. It does not impact the bottom line number of $68,000.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Does anyone have any questions for Todd in regard to this revision request? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion by Tara, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Matt, I apologize, I probably did that, you were supposed to do that.
I'm a generous guy. I'm happy to share the. I'll take the next one. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. Okay, second one has to do with updating Exhibit B to our airline rate charge schedule. This has to do with including rates for Wiley Terminal on Exhibit B. There weren't any other changes. Todd, you want to talk about what those two are and why we're including them now?
Yeah, originally we included our blended rate, but we did not include, we included our rates for our main terminal, but not Wiley. So we want to include it on the document. There's two rates. We have the signatory rate and the non-signatory rate. Those are the only changes. The rest of the document, as you indicated, remains unchanged.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Todd in regard to inserting these?
This remains competitive with our peer set. The changes don't do anything to affect that.
They do not.
All right. If there's no other questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the updated Exhibit B.
So moved.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Frank. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thanks, Todd. It looks like we had another phone join us. Could you?
I just joined.
Oh, hey, Mike. How you doing? Hey, you joined just in time. Well, the business committee is up. Although I did, yeah.
My thought is that, Matt, you ran that meeting. I was unavailable. I defer to you in taking those two items because I'm on my phone and I don't see the agenda in front of me. So
Not a problem.
I appreciate it.
I'm happy to introduce the gentleman that will introduce the needs. And I will then turn it over to Ryan for explanation of our two action items.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll take the first one. The next one will actually be Steve.
Thank you.
So what we're looking to do is award bids we received for two on-call paving contractors that we received bids on earlier this month. Really what we're looking to do is to reinstate a contract that we did back in 2017 where we had 3 on-call pavement contractors for a period of 3 years. Worked out very well in our favor to do projects that we had in our capital program, as well as some emergency repair projects that came up, really streamlining the procurement process and having qualified contractors that understand our rules and regulations, are badged, kind of gone through that process. So we did get 2 bids, two bidders on 2 of the contracts. One's for air side and one's for land side. Air side being the runways, taxiways, apron, and land side being your roadway work. What we did is put in an overall budget of $6 million, $3 million for air side, $3 million for land side. The way that we did it, if you want to scroll down a little, so that is the bids are broken out by 2 bid tasks. One of them was the roadway repairs for our terminal roadway. Another one was for our apron over on gate 2 area. So the way it worked out with some of the future tasks is on the land side. Lehigh Valley Site was the lower bid, and Gaver Industries, Barker & Barker was the next lowest. The way it works, you can see the breakdown of the contract amount. So as future tasks come out, we provide it to the first contractor on the list. If they're within 10% of the engineer's estimate, they're awarded that task. If not, we move on to the next one based on those broke out percentages there. On the air side, Barker was actually the lower, so you'll see the split basically equates to the same amount for both contractors. So if you want to scroll down, so that mentioned that piece. So back in 2017, we budgeted about 6.5. We spent roughly 3.2 million of that through 2020. So again, just to be conservative, we put in $6 million budget for the 3 years, 2 potential 1-year extensions. And again, as we mentioned, discussed in the committee, is all the projects are identified in our capital program, including the cash flow, and it really just gives us that flexibility as projects come up or should priorities change with pavement quality, we can address those impacts. So we're looking to award 2 contracts, one for Lehigh Valley Site and one for Gaver Industries for a minimum period of 3 years, not to exceed $6 million.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll award those together. Does anybody have any questions for Ryan? This was passed through committee favorably, so we did have some discussion there. Okay, if there's no questions, I'd ask for a motion to award the bids to the 2 contractors as presented by Ryan.
Move to approve.
We'll give it to the mob. I'm not sure who the second was. It sounded like Larry, but all in favor of awarding the bids as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. We can award them as presented. Thank you all. Steve, you have a rather unusual rejection of bids, which was also passed favorably through committee. So
yes, so unlike Ryan, who was approving 2 bids, I'm rejecting 2 bids. Earlier this month, we received bids on our elevator escalator maintenance contract from 2 companies. Originally posted on PennBid, we got a pretty broad response from the industry. 8 companies actually downloaded the RFP to bid, and what we'd like the board to do is reject these RFP bids, originally 2 years with 2 additional 1-year options, because they're well and truly above what we can negotiate through cooperative purchasing. And if you look down below, what we would like to do is kind of reject these bids and then approve negotiation through the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing with a prospective service provider. So we're currently in talks with 2 of the bidders or proposers to develop a 2-year contract for this maintenance of our elevators and escalators.
If I could ask again, whoever's not on mute and is playing the Chamber Real Estate Outlook in the background, please put yourself on mute.
it's compelling stuff, John.
Yeah, it is. And then you can watch it later, right, Frank?
I believe so. Does anybody have any questions for Steve related to the bid rejection? Okay, I'd ask for a motion to reject the bids as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Glenn. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor of rejecting the bids, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bids are rejected. Final item is something that came before the executive committee related to extending our CBA with the Teamsters 773. Are you going to walk us through that one?
I think Todd can take us through that one.
Thank you, Todd.
Sure. This is a one-year extension on our Teamsters collective bargaining agreement. Our contract was scheduled to expire on July 1st of this year, actually June 30th of this year. And this is an extension for 1 year. The Teamsters have already unanimously agreed to this contract. It's something we worked with them collaboratively to kind of come up with a 1 year extension. We talked about it pretty extensively in our committee meetings, but it's just a 1 year extension. None of the material terms changed with the exception of the wage increase is 2% effective July 1st of this year.
Thank you, Todd.
Yep, that's it.
Any questions for Todd?
I've got a couple of questions. I'm not sure if this is a proper topic for executive session, labor relations.
He's got
Judge?
Judge, you want to weigh in?
Yes.
Yes, labor negotiations are properly discussed in executive session, so we can go into executive session for that purpose.
Okay. I'll request that. We can go in, Matt, whenever you want to go in. If you want to cover the other topics outside, and then we can handle executive session at the end, or we can go now, whatever your preference is.
I just asked if anybody has any questions for Todd that would not be that would be public questions. If not, I'd ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the items in question.
So moved.
Thank you, Ron. A second?
Second.
That'll take us into executive session. Thanks, Larry.
So my question was, the Teamsters Local 773, they did ratify this through their membership?
Yes, they did.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think we have the information we need to move forward here. I'd ask for a motion to approve a 1 year extension to our CBA with Teamsters Local 773.
So moved.
Thank you, Glenn. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. All in favor of approving the extension of the CBA with the Teamsters, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, we will extend it as we per the approval. That concludes our reports from committees. I'm going to turn it over to Tom for Executive Director's report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. As Todd alluded to in the report, March is the first year-over-year passenger traffic increase we've seen here since February 2020, so up about 4.8%. But the real takeaway was, again, we've been seeing about 25,000 passengers a month. We were at 46,000 passengers in March. So really excited to see some travel starting to happen again. We think that's really a good sign. Certainly April was sort of the bottom of that curve, as we remember from last year for air travel. And TSA national passenger traffic is up over 1,200% so far in April versus last April. At ABE, we're trending about 1,400% up from last April and only 33% down from April 2019. So starting to look generally positive there. We look ahead a little bit further into May 2021. We see that our scheduled seats that we're anticipating seeing here are actually up about 5% over May of 2019. So again, we still need to fill those seats, and I think we've talked about that a little bit at committee, but still great to see that service moving back. Since our last board meeting on March 30th, kind of along the same line here, on April 12th, Delta brought back their third daily nonstop service to Atlanta, so that was great to see return. April 15th, Allegiant's Myrtle Beach service also resumed. So as of that date, Allegiant's 8 nonstop destinations are back, and we're fully back to 15 nonstop flights with nearly identical frequencies as we had prior to the pandemic. So again, all good signs. On Saturday, April 17th, Steve and his team led an excellent triennial full-scale emergency exercise here at ABE. We had 36 different agencies from around the Lehigh Valley represented here, emergency response agencies, 81 participants plus 27 volunteers. I know Tara was there, and we had a number of folks in the room here, so really appreciate everybody's work on that and Steve's work on getting that done during a pandemic. So great job. On Thursday and Friday, April 22nd and 23rd, we did celebrate with some Earth Day events at all 3 of our airports, so a number of things taking place there. April 26th, National Pretzel Day, employee appreciation with a pretzel, that's what it was, so we're able to get some pretzels out to folks. In terms of upcoming events, what we know right now, reports indicate that the October 1st deadline for Real ID is going to be postponed. So we just saw that recently. No word yet on when the new compliance date will be, but stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date on that. We also are working on our statement of financial interest forms with the State Ethics Commission. That date has been extended. We have until June 1st to bring those forward. And on Tuesday, May 11th, the Airport Authority is going to be working with Fountain Hills Elementary School in building a sensory garden at the elementary. And it's part of a volunteer challenge by the Volunteer Center of the Lehigh Valley. So we've got a number of staff and maintenance team that are going over to the elementary school to work there, and we're excited to help out. So with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tom?
Matt, this is Brian, just with a quick comment.
Go for it.
Appreciate all the work of the staff, and I know there's lots of different ways to run the numbers and look at them, but one number that I thought was particularly telling was the jump from Colin's report from February to March. And if I read it right, we jumped 20,000 passengers between February and March, which is 77%. And we jumped 3 million pounds of cargo from February, which is 21%. So yes, we definitely want to see a return back to more of normal, but I thought that was a pretty good monthly jump.
Absolutely, Brian. Couldn't agree with you more. It's great to see signs of life coming back into aviation, and we're certainly excited. I know as of yesterday, 33% of Lehigh County residents and 32% of Northampton County residents are now fully vaccinated. So I know that continues to roll forward and certainly is a factor in what we're seeing.
I'd say, and being here, and it feels busier in the airport right now.
Absolutely, without question.
Which is nice, and to the point of vaccination, I'm looking forward to the point to come in the near future. I would hope that we can all congregate again in the boardroom for our meeting. That I'm hoping that comes soon. I don't know when when we can anticipate that, but
yeah, I think coming this summer, we're certainly looking to do that, but more to come on that.
Thank you. Very good. All right, this is going to be the last time you hear Judge Friedberg in 2021 bother you about your financial interest forms.
Maybe not.
But hopefully.
Everybody's probably memorized this announcement. As Tom noted, there has been now a 30-day extension for filing your financial disclosure reports to June 1. The state has granted that. And my only comment is, if anybody has not done it at this point, if you have any questions where you need help in interpreting the rules and requirements, the solicitor's office is available to do that. Just reach out to me, and I will respond to answer your question.
Thank you, Judge.
Matt, I have an overall question.
Yes.
For that, for the judge. Can those forms be faxed or emailed in? Is that permissible?
Well, forms are sent to Sylvette, our secretary, and she keeps them here, and I'm sure she received them either by email or a hard copy.
Okay.
The other thing I would add as a clarification, Ron, is that you can fill out the form on the State Ethics Commission website, and it can email you a copy. You can just get an email copy of that way as well, if doing it online is easier. So we can send out that link again, make sure people are aware of where they can go to do that.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks for the question, Ron. Appreciate it. Okay. Judge, are there any other items in your report?
At this point, I don't have anything. The office has been performing the routine matters that we have discussed in the past, and there's nothing exceptional.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Do we have any new business? No? Okay, before we do move on to election of officers, I do want to, I did neglect at the beginning to welcome Ms. Godshall to our board. Although she's not in attendance, I look forward to meeting her soon, hopefully in person. But I also want to take one quick second to, I think we sang Happy Birthday to Sylvette last year. I don't know if anybody wants to join me. Sylvette's birthday is right around the corner. And she's also going to be departing soon. I believe the next time we see Sylvette might be with a different last name. But if everybody would, Sylvette, would you mute everybody so we don't have a cacophony and we'll just sing Happy Birthday here? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sylvette. Happy birthday to you. And I hope you have a very nice thing ahead of you, and you can report back next month on a fantastic ceremony, I'm hoping. Thank you, Sylvette. Wonderful. Okay, moving on to the election of officers. Larry presented a slate, and you're muted again, Larry, so you're gonna have to unmute yourself. Larry presented a slate from the nominating committee to the board last month that had to be amended because we did lose Glenn Geisinger. Initially, Glenn was to be part of the slate of recommended officers. The nominating committee did present a modified slate at our executive committee meeting. And Larry, would you please present that slate now, and then we will conduct an election of our officers.
Sure, but before I introduce those folks, I wanted to thank the folks who stepped in with the departure of Glenn to help out. And it was Mike Dowd and Farah and Mike. So thank you for helping me out. Also, I believe, Matt, before we go here, we have to ask if there's any nominees from the floor.
Well, Larry, why don't you present the slate that you recommended, and then we'll take nominations for the floor for each position.
Okay. The officers would be John Hayes, Vice Chair, and Brian Damons, Secretary Treasurer. That's the only two we have for the slate at this time.
No, the slate would include, so at that point, I think our slate initially included me serving as chair for an additional term, John as our vice chair, Brian as the secretary treasurer. Tara would continue as our Northampton County representative, and then I believe the nominating committee suggested Mike Sturczyk stepping in as the Lehigh County representative.
That's correct.
Correct. And Judge, do you want to walk us through how we should conduct this election?
Yes, each office requires a separate vote, and there's an opportunity with regard to each office, including the county representatives, for nominations of others from the floor. If for any office there is only one nominee, then the vote on that can be done by a voice vote, with the members being asked those for, those opposed, and any abstentions. There is always the opportunity, and the bylaws provide that if any member of the board wants to have a roll call vote for any office, that will be done. If there should be nominations from the floor so that there are contested elections, that is then done by roll call vote. But there was reference to a slate, but I want to be clear that each office is voted upon separately. It's not just the whole slate being voted upon at one time.
Thank you, sir.
My suggestion would be that we begin with the office of chair and ask if there are any additional nominations, and then depending on whether there are additional nominations or not, we can go on to the vote by the board for that one.
Thank you. So the nominating committee has forwarded Matthew Turk as the chair. Are there any nominations from the floor for that position? Good. I'd ask for a vote then to approve Matthew Turk as chair for a one-year term. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The nominating committee has recommended John Hayes as vice chair. Do I have any nominations from the floor for vice chair? Okay. All in favor of electing John Hayes to vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The nominating committee has recommended Brian Dames as secretary treasurer. Are there any nominations for secretary treasurer from the floor? Okay. All in favor of electing Brian Dames to secretary treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, for Northampton County Rep, I believe only Northampton County folks can vote.
That's correct.
Correct. There's a nomination of Tara Zrinsky to serve as Northampton County representative. Are there any nominations from the floor for Northampton County Rep? Okay, all of those in Northampton County in favor of electing Tara Zrinsky as Northampton County Rep, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Mike is not with us, but Mike Stershik was nominated by the the nominating committee to serve as Lehigh County Rep. Are there any nominations from the floor for Lehigh County? All in favor of electing Mike Stershik as Lehigh County Rep, all in favor from Lehigh County, of course, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have our officers set for another year. Thank you, everybody who offered to serve. Your service is much appreciated. We look forward to seeing you all in our next meeting. I'm going to also make committee assignments based on our new officers. So heads up on those. I'll be getting those out as soon as possible. We will meet again as committees what is the date of that next committee meeting? May 24th, and then
The day before board.
which is the day, it's a Monday. So we'll be meeting the day before our board of directors meeting. So heads up there. And I wish you all a fantastic, beautiful sunny day. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
So moved.
I'll take that as a second.